I was asked what I feed my trees, my plants, and for the trees that I've planted here, other than the kitchen scraps, which I throw in between the spaces in the trees, I don't actually feed my trees anything. I don't spray any chemicals, and I inoculated the entire area with milk kefir shortly after I started doing this, and in general that's it. I don't have a feeding regime for the actual trees I grow. Interestingly, in this area, some of the trees that I planted last year are putting out good new growth, though in this area, which I was always a bit suspect of, just about every single one of them has just shriveled up and died. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of them, all the Viminalis I planted here. So I'm not sure why that would be. All of the rest of the Viminalis, as you can see, are thriving. Some of them are really starting to come on. Very pleased. Though the trees, seedlings that are in the plug trays do require feeding, I've never ever thought of the peat-based compost I use as anything more than a growing medium. It has about 6 weeks of nutrients feed in it from memory of reading one of the sacks. So I feed them liquid seaweed. It doesn't actually say this is for trees, vegetables, potatoes, fruit, flowers, shrubs, seeds, houseplants. But both the Paulownia and the Eucalyptus respond really well to it. I microdose, and I'll show you that later in the video. The other thing that I do is, in my microdose mix is Mucofol, and I'm not sure if Mucofol is a product specifically from Fruit Hill Farm or not. I've been buying from Fruit Hill Farm for around 4 years and they've been very reliable. Anyway, Mucofol is for fungal infections in woody plants. All trees here during the winter get fungal spots on the leaves, and this isn't going to cure it, but the hope is that it will mitigate the effects. Eucalyptus especially look really scruffy and horrible during the winter, especially those in the polytunnel. However, they grow out of it, and I'll just show you that now. This is Camphora, planted possibly August last year, July, August, maybe even a bit later. Anyway, as you can see, the leaves can be very scruffy with these fungal spots, and like I say, the fresh growth, they just grow out of them, so I'm not fussed about that. Even on the established trees, as you can see, fungal spots, and get one still fresh new growth. So that's pretty common with all trees, not just eucalyptus. These are Leucoxylon, fabulous red flowers. I'm going to have another go with them. They're not too frost hardy. Maybe I'm going to try planting them in a different area. Anyway, as you can see, really horrible, scruffy, disintegrating previous growth and fabulous, fresh, healthy new growth. And possibly more evident on some of these. These are Coccifera, snow gum, and as you can see, really scruffy with fungal infections during the winter. People get colds, trees get fungal infections. but also, as you can see, they grow out of it pretty quickly, and these are fabulously healthy, pumping out new growth. These are Mucofol. I just want to show you the passiflora, because their new growth tends to be very red. It's not too bad now. There's one that's very purple and raw looking, but that's perfectly normal for this variety. These were in the polytunnel during the winter, and as you can see, spots on the leaves, and that leaf just broke off in my fingers there, as you can see though. So this is why I put the Mucofol into my micro dosing mix, and I'll just show you now what I do there. I've got a really good system now, which consists of a barrel. This is a food safe barrel, and I drilled a couple of holes initially in the lid, one for the tube up to the microdoser, and one as a vent just in case it got an airlock, though I don't think it's actually necessary. And I also drilled another one, and I'm going to put an agitator in so I can just stick the drill on the top of that and give it a swirl up every now and again. And the other part is this, which is the doser, and that's been very, very reliable. Pretty sure it'll be 3-4 years old anyway. It's at least 3 years since I started feeding like this, so it's at least 3 years old, and I did have to replace one of the rubber seals, but apart from that, it's worked fabulously. And the way it works is basically the water comes in here, fills up a chamber until it gets to a certain point, and then it releases, and you'll hear it clicking, and as it releases, or as it's filling or as it's releasing, it's sucking up a measure of what's in the barrel. So I'll just show you what's on the other side of this and my pipe work system, and then you can see it in operation. So I've got several manifolds. This is the first one, and basically just mains water from the group water scheme flows through both of these outlets, and if I were to open that outlet, then I just get normal water, and I'll show you how that works just right now. And if I open the other side, then it goes through the doser. So as you can see, pipe goes up there through the doser, and the other water pipe, which comes along here, then goes into the other manifold, and one side of this manifold goes into my buried hoses in around the polytunnels, and the other side of it comes up here into this reel here. So as soon as I start passing water through here, then you'll hear it starting to suck up a dose. There you go. Perfect. So what I'm actually going to do here is turn it onto the water, and I'm going to further fill up the barrel, and that'll further dilute it. This is what it looks like inside the barrel. A tube with a filter on the bottom, and perhaps the filter's getting clogged up. One reason why I want to put the agitator in, but what I'll do is I'll further dilute it, and hopefully that'll stop it clogging up as well. Initially I worked out a dose rate of around 4%, i.e. 4% feed to water. The doser can be quite accurately adjusted, though for now, while I work through the last of the feed in the barrel, which is old, I'm not being too particular. More scruffy eucalyptus, or not so scruffy now. I started feeding these maybe a couple of months ago. These are last year's plugs, and some of these Arnagera were just in dreadful condition. It was compost heap time, and yet they're now thriving. Likewise, and fair dues, they've been in the polytunnel, even though these are regnans and again, you know, compost heap stuff, and they're now thriving. Some ovata. Again, just in great condition now, with a bit of feed and a bit of warmth. And these are viminalis, and these were really spindly. I'll use these, and I've got more viminalis growing, so I'll use these to replant those losses in amongst the other trees. Maybe they'll do better if they're planted earlier on in the year. These are camphora, I thought these were, but they're looking like, yeah, definitely camphora. So they're scruffy but growing, and as long as they're growing, they'll grow into nice trees. The irrigation system runs from the other end of the outhouse, which I've just shown you, all those manifolds, and then I buried the pipe in under the ground here along the wall, and there's a junction just as at the start of the gunny eye hedge there. One feed off the mains comes up here and around the edge of the wall, buried again, and then comes out there. And this is what I use to irrigate the 3 polytunnels which I have up here. Some good Arnagera growing, and these look as though they're getting dry. They can dry out really quickly at this time of year in the polytunnel. So I'll give them a spray now. It'll take a short while for the feed to mix in. I've been running water through it for the past week or so. There's another outlet here, just down from the polytunnels. The main ring runs at the back of the wall. This has got a stop valve on it, so just in case I need to further expand, though I'm quite happy with the level of growing that I'm doing, the amount of trees at the moment. Yes, I'm really pleased. It's starting to come on. It's become an organised job for me. I can get up in the morning and pretty much predict what I'm going to be doing, whereas when I first started this, it was very much crisis management. Anyway, the pipe runs behind the wall there, and then outlets here, and gives me another hose spray so that I can water the plants in this area. It is quite wasteful it is wasteful. Quite a lot of this goes on the ground, so I guess it's not wasted. I guess I am feeding some of my land with some runoff, but it'll be running off deep, I would think. Wasteful in terms of the fertiliser, the feed as well, doing it this way, but I have tried using dunk trays and it's just not practical. Takes too long. These Leucoxylon have been in the polytunnels, they're last year's, so they've been in these plug trays for pretty much a year now, so I'm sure they're going to appreciate being fed. And from there the line continues round to the sheltered area, and it has to be said that I'm well set up for it now. It used to be a real mission dragging the hose around to feed all the plants. These do get watered from natural rainwater, those that are outside, though they don't get fed. So, and it's the eucalyptus do transpire, so they very quickly dry out when it's warm and sunny with a little bit of a breeze. So there's the outlet for that hose, and the junction's actually here, and the pipe work goes down here towards the polycarbonate polytunnel. When it comes in here, it's buried underneath there, I left holes deliberately for my irrigation system. So it's just fabulous. And look how quickly these are drying out. Not too bad. But fabulous stock growing now, and these are developing rapidly. That one's wilting, so I'm just going to crack on. It is moist, it must be wilting from the other day. Maybe I'll put these outside. Starting to become sturdy enough for that. That's what I feed and dose: liquid seaweed and Mucofol. A couple of things that are quite remarkable this year. First of all, the bird song is incredible at the moment. It's just, this place is buzzing with wildlife and small birds, and that can only be down to two things: lots more habitat for them in terms of the trees, and I don't spray any chemicals, and I'll just touch on that in a wee second. The other thing that's fabulous this year is all the infrastructure's built. It used to take ages to pull the hose out to water all the individual areas where I had the plants. Now I just walk around and do it. It's just so, the amount of time I'm saving is significant. I wouldn't know how rich or otherwise the land was when I first got here. What I'll say is these eucalyptus trees are thriving on it. I've read quite a lot about mycorrhizal fungi and improving soil quality, and I really do feel that I've improved it with dosing milk kefir. Also, no chemicals, and to a certain extent not feeding. If you artificially feed, then you discourage the mycorrhizal fungi, particularly if you feed phosphorus fertilizer, high in phosphorus, and sulfur is another one. If you apply sulfur to your ground, then that means basically that the trees don't need to enter into a symbiotic relationship with the fungi in order to get the nutrients that they need. If you're giving them artificial nutrients, then why will they bother? So I think it's actually more beneficial not to feed the trees that you've planted in your fields. Within bounds, if you're planting a monoculture forest for harvesting firewood or whatever, then perhaps feeding artificial fertilizer will give you a better yield. But certainly here, these are all growing, they're all surviving, or most of them are surviving the winters. They're thriving. I'm really pleased. Thanks a mil for watching. Good luck.